The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the empty house, a violent crack that made the glass pane rattle in its frame. Mark stood in the center of the kitchen, his breathing heavy and ragged. In his trembling hand, he clutched a crumpled piece of paper that felt like a hot coal. It was a receipt from a hotel near the city center, dated only last night. The implications tore through his mind like a storm. He threw his keys onto the cold granite counter with a sharp metallic clang and began to pace. Every step of his heavy boots against the hardwood floor sounded like a heartbeat of pure, unadulterated rage. Minutes felt like hours as he waited, the silence of the house suffocating him. He imagined 1,000 different scenarios, each one more painful than the last. When the door finally opened again, Sarah walked in, looking exhausted. She was carrying a large cardboard box wrapped in a stained old blanket. Mark didn't give her a chance to set it down. He stepped into her space, his shadow looming over her, and shoved the crumpled receipt toward her chest. "Explain this," he barked, his voice low and dangerous. Sarah froze. She looked down at the paper, her eyes widening as she processed the words. Her breath hitched in her throat, and for a long, agonizing moment, she remained silent, unable to find the words to defend herself. She didn't argue. She didn't scream back. Instead, Sarah slowly knelt onto the hardwood floor, her movements careful and deliberate. With trembling fingers, she began to peel back the layers of the stained blanket. Mark's anger faltered, replaced by a sudden, chilling confusion. Inside the box lay a tiny, shivering creature. It was a puppy, its fur so caked in mud and grime that its original color was a mystery. Its hind leg was mangled, wrapped in a makeshift bandage of torn cloth that was already soaked through with dark, fresh blood. The dog's breathing was shallow and frantic, a tiny life hanging by a thread in the middle of their kitchen. Sarah pulled a small thermometer and a bottle of antibiotic cream from her bag, her hands shaking with fatigue. "I found him in the alley behind that hotel," Sarah said, her voice cracking with emotion. "He had been hit by a car and left there to die. The vet clinics were all closed for the night, but I remembered that hotel had a 24-hour emergency animal station right across the street. I stayed there all night, just trying to keep him stable." Mark stared at the dog, then back at the receipt that now seemed so trivial, so foolish. He looked at Sarah's hands. They weren't covered in guilt, but in dry dirt and the blood of a helpless animal. A low, pained whimper rose from the box, cutting through the heavy silence of the room. Mark felt a wave of shame wash over him. He slowly crouched down beside her, reaching out a hand. He hesitated for a second, then gently stroked the puppy's head. The small dog leaned into his palm, seeking warmth and comfort. The tension that had filled the house vanished, replaced by a shared urgency. Mark stood up abruptly and grabbed his car keys from the counter. He didn't say a word about his mistake. He didn't have to. He walked to the door and held it wide for Sarah. "Let's go," he said firmly. "The emergency clinic on 5th Street is better equipped for an injury this bad. We're going to save him." Sarah lifted the box carefully, and together, they stepped out into the pouring rain, unified by a new purpose.